Where'd you get this?
On the shelf.
If it's in a word or it's in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook. A rumbling sound, then 3 sharp knocks.
Babadook, duk, duk.
That's when you'll know he's around. You'll see him if you look. Nothing bad's gonna happen, Sam.
Did you think that about my dad before he died?
This monster thing has got to stop, all right? It's just a book. It can't hurt you.
You can't get rid of the Babadook.
You can bring me the boy. You can bring me the boy. You can bring me the boy.
And welcome back. Another week, another film. And we are doing it again. I'm with Neil this time. Neil, welcome back to the pod.
Hello everybody.
It's so good to have you back, mate. How's things?
Oh, all good, mate, all good. Just been very, very busy, family and working shifts and stuff. It just makes it a bit difficult coming on, but I've been raring and wanting to come back, and what a film. What a film we've chosen for my return.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? It really is. It's the strange thing is that this is kind of Steve's choice, who obviously commitment-wise, we're all extremely busy. I like to say we're professionals, but we're not. And Steve can't be on the pod,
busy.
so we're going to look at it, and it's what we're going to look at. And again, I know it's going to surprise everyone. It really is. It's another. Is it a horror film? It's meant to be a horror film. I don't really find it scary, but it's 2014, The Babadook.
Yeah, it's definitely a horror film. It's yeah. I don't know what other category you could put it into, to be honest.
Do you know, I thought that you were going to come in with a dig then when you said that I don't know what other category. I thought you were going to say, well, I've got a few categories that I could put this into.
Well, I do, but they're not generally listed at the Oscars. So
if they were, would that film with Clive Owen be in it that we did? What was that fucking?
Yeah, that wins #1 every year.
All right, so I can get a rough fucking idea of how this film's going to go.
Or do you? I could be, selling you a ruse.
You could be playing me. Well, the usual rules apply for our regular listeners who listen to this, that this will contain spoilers. It is me and Neil on the pod, so it will contain foul language as well. So if you are easily offended, that's just such a shame.
Man the fuck up.
Yep, exactly. Grow a pair. But we're going to be talking about this film in great detail, and it's just going to have general fun and chit chat. So this film, Australian film, and it's written and directed by Jennifer Kent. And Jennifer Kent was an actress, and this was her first kind of big feature. I think she wrote the first thing she wrote was and film was a very short film called Monster, which was based on an idea of the Babadook. And she really got inspired by what could actually happen and the possibilities of how far it could go. And that's when she wrote, obviously directed this film. And she maintains the sole rights to this film. And this film, the budget was 2 million, and worldwide it made 10 million. So it's another smash hit, regardless of what anyone says, what us two numpties say at the end of it. It's very popular, and it reviews really well, which surprised me when I went on to say like Mark Commode and listen to what he said, that he really just had so much praise for this film, which I've got to be honest, on my first viewing surprised me. It really did. Did that surprise you, mate?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, I saw horror, I was like, oh, here we go. It's going to be it's one of those Jeepers Creepers horrors. But no, this definitely did surprise me. Definitely.
Yeah, it was surprising. And the cast of this, that it's was it Essie Davis plays Amelia Vanek, Noah Wiseman plays the son Samuel, you've got Daniel Henson who plays Robbie, who's the helper in the nursing home, and you've got the neighbour Mrs. Roach, and you've got Oscar who plays the husband, and Claire who plays the sister.
Yeah.
So
everyone else, there's no point.
There's no point, is there? And I think I'm right when I'm saying that in this film that there isn't a score of music. There isn't music throughout the film. It's kind of more eerie sound effects that they use rather than background music for tension.
Yes. Yeah, no, actually, I think you're 100% on that. I don't think there's any music, is there? It is all just tension.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's the
definitely.
first film I think we've done about tension and about music. Sorry, obviously tension was there as well for some viewers, maybe not you, but
What a slip of the tongue there,
a
Stu.
slip of a Freudian slip could be. We don't
Oh,
know. And also, it makes a change for everyone who we're introduced to at the start of this film comes out at the end of the film, which is really rare because in
mm,
most of the horror films that we've reviewed lately, and we have done a shitload of horror films, that you get the token gesture kills, you get a big cast so they can thin them down for
yeah.
supposed tension. But this film doesn't work like that, and it'll be interesting to see if that's to its detriment at the end of it. You know?
No, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a different take on a horror film. It's definitely more suspense, isn't it?
Mm.
And it's a film that has a lot of build up rather than anything happening, if you see what I mean. Things
Yeah,
happen, but nothing sort of major. It ramps up quite quickly at the end, but it's a really quite a strange film the way they've set it out
it
in a
is.
clever way. In a clever way. I'm not going to diss it. I think it's quite clever. It's quite refreshing in the sense of it's not just a hack and slash. Everyone's going to die. You can see
Yeah,
what's coming. So yeah.
yeah. It's a film that if you really think about, and the more layers you go under,
Mm,
like to look at it and think about it, I think the more that you'll enjoy it. But I looked at some of the reviews before I watched this because I couldn't remember anything about this, and I think you've got to be really careful because when you got William Friedkin, who's a director of the '73 Exorcist, and he said this film. He's quoted on saying, "I've never seen a more terrifying film than The Babadook." And I think that's a real massive misquote and a real compliment to Jennifer Kent. Do
yeah.
you?
Massively. It has its moments. I'm not going to sit there and say it wasn't scary at all, but no, I can't. That's a massive oversell,
Yeah.
to be honest. Massively.
And it's interesting. This film did get a real backlash in due to the treatment that Amelia puts her son through, and there were several
Mm,
critics who were offended by the portrayal of Amelia, that she was the way she mistreated her son. And then Jennifer Kent came forward, and she said that the way the film was directed and the way it was filmed was that Samuel Noah Wiseman was never present when Amelia Vanek was actually going mental and threatening of like violence and things like that. It was just filmed differently, and they had adults who were portraying the mum, and it was just like the way it was edited really, really cleverly.
well,
But
that's good to know. But however, you can't. It's difficult, isn't it? They're criticizing a film which is art, and it
yeah,
was the way, obviously we'll get onto that later, but the way it was portrayed, I thought was very good and very real, and it needed to be that way
yeah,
for the
it wouldn't
story to
work.
go that way. It wouldn't have worked if it was all mamby pamby, and so you know, sad, shame really that they're criticised for something like that. But there you go. You can't please
Yeah, but
everyone.
no, it's the culture we live in. At the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
That people will just quite happily criticize and try and be relevant by saying that's
Yes.
a stupidity than looking at the film, which we often get accused of on the podcast.
That's true. Yeah. Hello, pot kettle black.
Exactly. But I did like the start of this, and I really like Essie Davis, who plays the mum, who plays Amelia Vanek. She
mm,
is absolutely brilliant in this, and the start of it when it's like a dream fantasy, and it's obviously when there was a crash when she goes to the hospital to have Samuel, and we learn that she died. She has an accident, and her husband dies, but
yeah.
she portrays a female on the edge of a mental breakdown, and
Oh
someone
God, yeah.
who is so sleep deprived amazingly well. It is just frightening. Having been through that myself with children,
Hmm.
obviously you've got a family as well. You know what it's like, and she just plays it perfectly, doesn't she?
Yeah, I have to say, very, very good actress in this film. Portrays it absolutely brilliantly, and as the film goes on, her performance just gets better and better. But yeah, the opening
And
bit, because she gets woken up, doesn't she? Because she's
yeah,
falling through the air, and then she gets woken up by her son, who's having another bad dream, which is
mm,
the whole sort of premise of the film. And I instantly picked up, and it is a little bit of a nitpick, but he's having bad dreams about monsters, and then the first thing she does is read him stories about monsters.
yeah, I thought that as well. It's a bit strange, isn't it?
I
You
thought,
want
what are
to
you
read,
doing?
yeah, about the big bad wolf and
Yeah,
eating pigs and
yeah.
everything like that. I mean, what did
That's-
you think of Noah Wiseman, who plays Samuel? He's meant to be, I think, 8 years old in the film. What did you think of him?
Do you know what? I think he's really good. But he takes a bit of getting used to
Yeah.
because his performance is really full on, and he plays this kid that's obviously clearly got massive issues really, really well. But at the
Mm,
start, when you're not sort of prepared for it, I found it quite hard. For the first sort of half an hour of this film, I was like, oh my God, this is sort of grinding on me a little bit.
yeah.
But as it went on and the story developed and stuff, I thought when you actually look at it, his performance was fantastic for such a young kid.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, mate. I thought it was fantastic. And I thought exactly the same as you when he's in the car, when he's having a screaming fit,
Yeah.
that you just think, shut the fuck up. Seriously, stop screaming.
Yeah.
But that's what kids are like. And we need to kind of remember he's been through massive trauma.
Oh yeah.
And he could be blaming himself for the fact that his dad died and it was his journey, which he like kind of openly tells everyone my dad died because my
Mm,
mum had to take me to the hospital to be born, and it is his fault, and he's walking around with that responsibility and that possible guilt, and he deals with that so well. And I think it's testament that you end up hating him so much, kind of through the first maybe half an hour of the film, is that he's that convincing. And
oh
I
yeah.
love the connection, which is the bond between both of them when they're in bed. And again, if you've had children, you know what it's like that Samuel gets in bed with Amelia because he can't sleep, and that he's all hands, he's kind of grabbing her neck, pinching her neck, and he's asleep. And as a parent, if this is what happens, this is what needs to happen for your child to sleep, and you're awake, you let it happen. You do anything for your kids, don't you?
Of course you do. You have to, because number one priority is your children at the end of the day, and you do become sleep deprived and everything else. But that's just what you do, don't you? So
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, and I just love that connection they've got.
mm,
There's not a lot of speaking in this, really, but there
no,
doesn't need to be because it's just portrayed and it's acted so well that she's so sleep deprived. And it's interesting because it shows Samuel making these weapons. So clearly he's had lots of problems, lots of trauma about monsters trying to get him, which isn't really explained, but you're kind of
no.
given that by the fact that she's aware of just what he's doing. When she hears the banging in the basement and he's got this kind of backpack with a like catapult on with a cricket ball.
The cricket ball, yeah.
Yeah, she knows what he's doing. I got to admit, when I saw him screaming, and she was like, "Don't fire those things," just talking like a complete wet blanket, and he puts one through the window.
Oh mate.
That's enough for me. I would have
Oh,
fucking lost my shit then.
that would have been smashed bits
Yeah,
and never allowed again. Yeah. But I mean, that you say he's 8. The fact that he's clever enough to build that shit at 8, genius child.
yeah,
But the fact that she allows him to go down into a basement and start sawing up wood and making weapons is just, you have to sort of wonder about the relationship between the two. Maybe she feels guilty or something. I don't quite. But she seems to just let him get away with everything.
yeah. And he kind of, I thought first of all, he may well be like on the spectrum because he doesn't seem to acknowledge his bad behavior and take
No,
responsibility for it. Like
no,
when he's doing the
absolutely
magic
not.
trick and she's saying, "Shut up," like I want to do your shoes up, we need to go, and he's ignoring her.
Mm,
That again, you have to kind of still try and take into account that he's a child, he's 8 years old, but because it's so impactful, you just want to just shout at the TV, like, shut up, listen to what's being said. And I thought it was weird that he went in for a kiss, and even she was like, don't do that, what are you doing? And it
Yeah,
was strange. I couldn't quite work out what he was doing. What was it when she said don't do that? What was he
I,
trying to do?
I don't know, mate. To be honest,
It
what is
was
this during the magic trick part?
He does the magic trick, and he apologizes and wants to give her a cuddle, and they cuddle, and then he does something and you don't see, and she pushes him away and says don't do that. And
Oh,
it was a really, really strange thing, but I don't quite know what it
I
was.
obviously missed that. Sorry.
No,
That's
no, it was just you can't actually see anything, but you just gauge that something's not right. But you then see Amelia at work, and bless her heart, she looks absolutely shattered. And she works in an
yeah.
old people's home, and still, even though her son's defiant, I thought it was interesting when they showed her serving tea and coffee to people sadly with dementia, and she kind of has that defiance through work, through their confusion as well. So she's got a pretty shitty life, hasn't she?
Yeah, yeah, she's got no one to really communicate with, has she? And I
No.
think, that's why she sort of latches onto the creepy helper man,
Yeah,
Robbie.
to
Is it Robbie?
Robbie. Yeah,
Yeah, he's a bit of an odd character. He seems a bit
he is. And
full
I
on.
thought there was more happening with Robbie. I thought he possibly has got an ulterior motive, but
Oh, yeah.
I thought, because I couldn't remember, that sometime later on he would turn up at the address and try and sexually assault her, and the son might do something. I really wasn't too
Mm,
sure.
yeah, yeah, they were on the sort of the lines that, because of how he was. He was a bit over friendly. I know we all have a bit of banter and stuff like that, but he had real sort of creepy vibes.
Yeah, he was a bit lecherous, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah,
It was interesting when they go to the school and it flashes that she obviously, poor cow, has to leave work because
yeah.
Samuel's built a crossbow again for the monsters and firing darts, and she's doesn't really. It's another indication of just how browbeaten she is, that she just doesn't really put up a good fight, does she? Put up a good case for her son at all.
No, she tries to sort of talk to them, doesn't she? But they obviously aren't listening to what she's got to say. But she's also being very defiant because
Yeah,
of the fact she's so tired and she's sort of protective of him. But I did like the fact she sort of said his name is Samuel. He's not the boy,
yeah,
and really sort of put the screw back on them. And then said, you
yeah,
know what, screw you, I'll just take him out of school if you're not going to listen to me and do what's best for him.
yeah. Because they want to separate him, don't they, away from the other
Yeah.
pupils, which is obviously you're alienating him, who he feels different already. It doesn't work. But yeah, it's really interesting you pick up on the boy, because that's played out later on when the dad or the
Hmm.
Babadook comes back as the dad, and he refers to him as the boy as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, which obviously then was the catalyst for what happened
Yeah,
after
yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's quite weird. And it's interesting the relationship with, I think it's Claire, the sister. And it really reminded me of Omen, this scene, the original Omen, when he was at the
Okay.
park. And because he, bless him for Samuel, that I'd love to see him in something else, because he really looks a very unlucky child, doesn't he? He's very pale, his hair's very unkempt, and he looks quite evil, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah, no, he does. That's the thing, because you sort of look at him, don't you, and the way he acts this part, and you're just like, what is going on?
Mm,
What is it about you? Why do you do these things that are clearly stupid and dangerous, and you don't listen, and all these other things, and you can never really put your finger on it. So whether in the car accident something happened during the pregnancy and that's caused him to, and obviously then
mm,
he's having these other traumas of monsters and stuff. It's just, I don't know, but yeah, because he's often just completely expressionless, isn't he? He doesn't
yeah,
really show any expressions other than certain parts, like if he's scared or whatever.
yeah.
He's quite unnerving on the screen.
He is, yeah. And when he was at the park and they were with Claire, and who is Amelia's sister, and obviously with Claire's daughter Ruby,
Mm.
and he climbs up on that climbing frame. And I thought that he was going to attack Ruby, or just something really horrific was going to happen there. And he climbs up and he stands on top of the climbing frame, and they scream and run over. And the next thing you see him crying in the car, and he didn't. There's no kind of indication that he fell off. It's just quite weird. It didn't play out as I thought it would. And I know that he comes across again is disobedient, and he doesn't conform to the rules. And that's the
Yeah.
real difference between Amelia and Claire, the sister, that she wants a princess party. That says it all, doesn't it? And she doesn't want Samuel
Yeah.
to be a part of that, whether
Yeah.
that's because of her age, which she puts it down to, or whether it's an excuse. You're just not invited. And I felt really sorry for Amelia, because she knows, I think, deep down the reasons why Samuel's not invited.
Oh, she knows the reasons deep down, because obviously Samuel's quite an odd kid, and he's probably quite hard to be around, whatever age.
Yeah.
And because she turned around and she said, he's got to have his birthday on his own birthday, because that's something that comes along, isn't it? That
Mm.
obviously the day of his father's death, her husband's death, is the same day he was born, so he's never actually had his birthday
Yeah.
on his birthday, because
Yeah.
it's too much of a big sort of remember, which is harsh on the kid,
Yeah,
to be
definitely.
honest. So he's being ostracized in a sense by her around his birthday, and this other kid is doesn't want to share her birthday probably with Samuel either.
Yeah.
She's like, this is my day. But yeah, that whole thing with on top of the crime frame, then he's in the car screaming. I honestly thought she was taken into hospital, like he'd fallen off, but you didn't see it.
Yeah, that's what I
And then
thought. Yeah.
he's just being naughty, he's just screaming in the back, isn't he?
Yeah.
It was all very odd. That whole scene it was like a whirlwind of what the hell's actually going on.
Yeah, it's really strange, and it doesn't really pay off. I mean, you see
No.
Mrs. Roach, who I honestly thought, if anyone's there just for cannon fodder for body count, it's going to be her.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, when's she gonna get it?
Yeah, she's got nothing to offer, and she's just a goner. But it's strange because they go to bed, and she reads him, obviously, the book, the Babadook book, where he
Yeah.
pulled it off the shelf, and she doesn't recognize it, which is weird in itself, especially the nature of the book. That was quite strange, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, massively. It's like, I don't recognize this book, so I'm gonna just read it anyway. you
Yeah.
know, and then you instantly start reading it in the pictures and stuff like that. And you know that he's, like I said earlier, suffers from nightmares around monsters, and she just carries on doing it.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
strange because
just,
every page reads cryptically
yes,
like a threat, or a premonition of what's going to happen. Like,
yeah,
you won't see me coming, and you won't see what I'm going to do, and then you can make friends with a special one, and a friend of you and me. And she looks at it, and he's there, and she looks quite horrified, as if like, what's fucking happening here?
yeah,
Then she turns the page again and starts pulling all pulling all the strips, and even she's horrified. And if the kid can't sleep, is this really the best book? It will be
oh,
like going out for a meal and getting someone like Jimmy Savile and Rolf Harris to come around and look after your kids. You know what I mean?
exactly. Well, that's the thing. It's just I'm sat there going, why do obviously the story had to go that way, but you know, writing wise, it's quite odd,
It
isn't it?
really is.
I
Yeah,
think I'd prefer it if she turned around and said, "No way, we're not reading this," and then put it somewhere, and he then went out and found it
yeah.
himself and read it.
That will be
'Cause-
good. That if there's something very much like Evil Dead Rises, where
yeah,
you read something, and it happens. Yeah, that would have been much better, because the next one's like rumble, 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 a rumbling sound, then three sharp knocks. That's when you'll know that he's around. You'll see him if you look. And it's the cupboard, which is the same cupboard they've got in the
yeah,
bedroom.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's, yeah, it's fucking ridiculous, isn't it? It really is. And yeah, I don't know. It just,
Yeah. I mean,
as you
the book
say,
itself is clever. The book itself and the way it's done is clever, but the whole thing around her, and maybe it's because she's just so fucking exhausted, and
Hmm.
she was just like, you know what, I'm just going to read him this and hope he goes to sleep. But I don't care how fucking tired you are, if you realise that's not the right one.
Yeah, they might as well have had Samuel's going to get his throat ripped out, and Amelia's not going to be able to do anything about it. And she keeps reading it like
Yeah,
unsure of what it means.
yeah,
I'm sure there's a message here somewhere.
yeah. Oh, where's the happy ending? Oh,
Exactly. You're going to go to a special massage if you want one of
oh,
those.
that's
But
true. That is very true.
but they kind of finish the book to a certain extent, and she puts it on top of the cupboard. And at the end of the book, there is no writing. So the pages, I quite like the fact that they're yet to be written,
Mm,
which is pretty good. And it's weird because she watches the most fucking strangest programs on TV. It's like her TV is from the 1950s and only shows programs that are black and white, or even stranger. When she watches that, I don't know, that transgender person on the sex channel, I don't quite know why she's watching that. It's a bit strange,
no,
isn't it?
it's all a bit odd. It's almost like she's just like that. It used to happen years ago, didn't it? Where at the end of the night there was just nothing on. It was just stupid adverts and stuff like that. It's when was this set? Because it was not that old. This film, was it? It's 2014. Is it?
2014, this is set, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not exactly that old, but it seems like it's set in a time before then.
It
If you
does
see
look
what I mean.
a lot older, but when you
Yeah.
go to the birthday party a bit later, it doesn't seem that old. I thought it was in like
No.
set in the 80s or something, but it isn't.
That's what I thought. Hence why the TV was that way. Because
Yeah,
I think excuse me, we all remember, don't we, that TV just seemed to end, and it was
yeah,
either those stupid lines, CFAX, or crappy adverts.
yeah. It's
So
really
that's why,
weird. It got to
yeah.
midnight, then they played the national anthem, and that was it. The TV just went, shh,
Oh, God, we're old.
yeah, and there was just nothing else. And you kind of
No.
sat there, oh, right, I'm not even tired, and there is nothing to watch. So you had to stick like Rocky One in the video player or something like that, or it's just absolute shit.
Yeah.
But
Then you realise you haven't rewound it. Oh dear.
exactly, and you've got to wait half an hour for it to rewind.
We are
God,
old.
we are
God.
old.
Yeah, we are old. Fuck.
A really interesting scene, which is quite disturbing at the same time, is when there's nothing on TV. You're not hungry, so what do? You get a dildo out that looks like it's an old 80s brick style mobile phone, and she takes it to bed with her. What the hell? This dildo is
Yeah.
just so fucking weird. First of all, I didn't even know it was a dildo. I thought it was like a fucking back massager or something like that. It's really weird. It's
I
not your
thought she
traditional rabbit, is it?
No, I thought she was playing the Wii. It looked like a Wii controller. I thought, oh, she's going to do a bit of like golf or tennis or a bit of bowling. And no, no, it's to strum her clit. She was going to have a good old time.
And how disturbing is that? She's properly into the throes of just about to climax.
Yeah.
And poor Cal, no one likes to be disturbed, especially when like a geezer on your vinegar strokes. You just don't like it. And I don't know who's I should be like more worried about, the fact that Samuel walks in when she's just about to climax, or the fact that she just comforts him, keeps the dildo under the blanket, and she puts him in the same bed. And there's a fucking sticky dildo in there as well.
Yeah, no, it's all a bit weird. When she did start, I thought, oh, the film's going somewhere finally. Which, um, but then yeah, you knew he was going to walk in, didn't you? And then it's like, oh, yeah,
Where
just
did that
hide the
dildo go?
dildo, hide the dildo.
It
Hope she
was
turned it off, because that would have been
yeah,
embarrassing.
exactly. I
What's that
wanted the
buzzing
kid to
noise?
pick it up as like a weapon, as a sword to fight off the monsters, and
Yeah,
she just was a bit too awkward to be able to say, "Just put it down. Just put it
yeah.
down."
Can we do two-player tennis?
Where's the nunchucks for this, Mum?
Yeah. Where's the other bit? Put it down.
Stay away from the dildo. But yeah, it's a fucking
Yeah,
messed up
yeah,
scene. It really
it
is. It's
is.
just it's
I
not. It
guess
doesn't sit comfy, does it?
no, but I guess it's to show the fact that even when she just wants to have a good time on her own, she doesn't have that. She's sat downstairs exhausted because you know what it's like when you're that tired you can't sleep.
Yeah,
And she thought, what, I'll get myself to sleep a different way. And she doesn't even have the ability to do that because the kid just does not sleep and is just a constant. So I thought it
yeah.
was quite though it was weird, I thought it was a good way of sort of showing another point of view.
Yeah,
That,
yeah, it was.
yeah,
It kind of is another way, a weird way of showing that she just can't cut a break in it.
yeah, basically, yeah,
So she gets a phone call when she skips work, and it's from her sister Claire, who's looking after Samuel, and like she fucking loses her plot, doesn't she? Because Samuel's been telling Ruby about stories of the monster, and she's just scared shitless. And again, it's another divide between her and her sister, isn't it?
yeah, no, massively, yeah. She doesn't. She's not understanding at all. Is she her sister? She's just very much like Samuel's a problem, and I guess protective of her own daughter, which is fair enough. But she clearly doesn't like Samuel
No, and do you
and
think
struggles with him.
when Samuel's downstairs, when she takes him back to the house, and he's in the basement with his magic tricks, and he's got the picture of his dad, and it's quite sad, really, because that's a reflection of the only company, the only friendship, like outside, away from his mum, that he's got, and it
Yeah,
really highlights the trauma and what's missing from his life, doesn't it?
yeah, no, he definitely needs friends, but I suppose he struggles to have them because he's, you know, because of his actions and stuff like that. He probably scares all the kids.
Yeah, and
So
because of
yeah,
that, he's not allowed a birthday party. And the weird thing is, as you said earlier, Robbie comes round to the address with like a model plane in a game and says, "Well, when I wasn't very well, because that's what Amelia's led him to believe, that my
yes,
dad always bought me a model." And he just goes ape shit and says, "You're not my dad. I can't even have a birthday party. She hates me." And he runs away, and that's Robbie done. It's really strange, isn't it?
it was such a weird scene. I thought it was going quite well because bloke turns up, thought he was a bit creepy, but he's actually seems to be genuinely nice. There's a chance for the story to be developed a little bit, so she could sort of explain it to him, say, "Oh, I'm going through all this. I'm really sorry for lying, but I just needed some time for myself because I don't get any." But just scene just ends, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
It
And
just ends,
Robbie's
and that's
gone.
him. Cheers, Robbie. Thanks for your
Yeah,
fucking part in this, mate. You can fuck off now. But
yeah.
when they're having dinner, and when Amelia coughs up this glass when they're having like porridge or oats or whatever they're having, did the kid Samuel put the glass in there because he says it's to protect everyone from the monster, or because it does cut the inside of her mouth? I mean, who did that?
I have no idea because that's the thing. I thought maybe that was the Babadook,
Yeah,
but then there's nowhere in it about eating glass and stuff like that. I don't believe in the storytelling.
because he
And
says the Babadook did it.
yeah,
And again,
so
it's fucked up, isn't it? Because as a parent, you'd lose your shit. You'd be like, "What the fuck are you trying to do?" And she
yeah,
deals with it by saying, "Just go away and watch a DVD."
yeah,
Which
yeah,
again is,
exactly.
yeah, nice punishment there. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll cook you something else because she's like, "Oh, don't eat yours," because she's not sure, is she, where this glass has come from. And
yeah.
I guess she thinks it's him, but it's all very odd.
And
It
at
was
this
again
time,
another not explained scene, really.
no, not at all. And you're led to believe it. I think, well, I don't know what your thoughts are, but at this time, it appears that either Samuel is under control of the Babadook, or the Babadook is present and targeting him. Because when
Yes.
she goes upstairs in the bedroom, he kicks off so much to a certain extent that he kicks her in the chest and knocks her over, which is the
Mm.
first violence that we've had, really, because he's defaced the picture of both of them together, which she's rightly so loses her shit.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. You would though, wouldn't you? Because you know she doesn't have much apart from pictures left of her and her husband, and then to have that done, yeah, any parent would go absolutely bloody mental.
And it's
To
good,
be fair,
yeah, but it's a really clever way of portraying Samuel as the baddie at the moment, which and her as the victim, which is it cleverly swaps over as the film progresses, and still she's in bed, regardless of how much he kicks off, and it's the mother's love for her son that she still continues to do everything and sticks up for him, and it kind of
yeah,
comes to a head when she goes to the birthday party of Claire, where Ruby just wants a princess party. And I love that scene in the kitchen where she's sat
Oh,
there.
mate.
She's not made up like all the other mums, and they all kind of are like Cheshire wives, and they're all kind of fucking glamorous and stuff like that. And they try and include her, but the way they do it's just a piss take. It's so fucking token gesture the way they're trying to
Oh,
include Amelia. They're just belittling her, aren't they, to
oh,
a
it's
certain
so
extent?
insulting. It's so insulting, isn't it? It really is. I mean, just quickly going back to that scene in the bedroom where
Mm,
he's defaced the picture, the fact that he instantly grabs his catapult to go and try and almost kill something, i.e., the Babadook. I think rewatching it, I think that it is the Babadooks that's defaced the picture
right.
in order to separate the two of them to
Yeah.
cause this issue. Because the fact that because he kicks her over, doesn't he, and says, "Do you want to die?" So he's
Yeah.
clearly in communication. In my opinion, he's clearly in communication with the Babadook, and the
Yeah.
Babadook's doing things to try and tear them apart. But it's making him look like he's just being a really bad kid.
Yeah, you never really see it from the side of Samuel, do you, in this?
No,
You just see him reacting. And again,
no.
it does come to a head at the birthday party when, and to be honest, I can't blame him for what he does, his actions.
Oh, mate,
When he's
definitely
in the
not.
treehouse and Ruby's saying that everyone knows that you're a loser, your mum's mad, your dad's dead. She is fucking horrible. Like, kids could be so vindictive and
Oh, they
horrible.
can. Yeah,
And
they can
he
be
just,
cruel.
yeah, and he pushes her out of the treehouse. And again, it all comes back on Amelia, who gets the brunt of this for being a really bad mum. And I feel
Yeah,
so sorry for all, apart from obviously Claire and Ruby, for everyone involved. And this is like the final like divide, the straw that breaks the
yeah,
camel's back, isn't it? On this one, they just kick off.
yeah. Well, that's the thing because they're having the conversation outside anyway, aren't they? The two sisters, because she's like, you don't actually ever ask me about my how I'm doing or anything like that. You don't come round. She's like, well, I won't come round because I don't want to be around Samuel. Then as she's doing that, Samuel pushes the girl out of the bloody treehouse because she's saying, you don't have a dad. He never wanted you. He died because
Yeah,
of you and all these things. And I'm not being funny. Any kid that's having that said about their dead parent is more than likely going to react that way. So but you can only feel the only person you can really feel sorry for is Amelia because she's yet again something else that's being thrown at her, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
she's now
definitely.
lost her probably the only person she could kind of talk to, which is her sister, and it's just who's she
Yeah,
got left? Who's she got
that's
left
it.
to talk to?
Yeah, jobs on the line. Financially, she's
Yeah.
broken. Mentally and physically, she's broken, and she's just got nothing. And the close network of support that she's got is
Mm.
breaking down as well. And on the way back from the party, Samuel has that fit where he goes to the doctor and they say that his brain overheated, which I fucking never heard of someone's brain overheating. I
No.
not that it can or it can't, I don't know. But and that's when I really love the part when she plays it so well when she's so desperate that
Mm.
she's on the edge, and it's a reflection of how badly she needs help. That she wants the doctor to prescribe tranquilizers to knock out her son, and the
Yeah.
doctor does. I didn't think he would, to be honest. I thought that he would be another person against her, but he does. And she does get a peaceful night's sleep. But when she wakes up in the morning, that book that she's ripped the pages out of appears back on the doorstep again, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. The creepy book
Mm.
begins, if you like. Yeah, because she just that's been. I swear that's been seen before, though, isn't it?
Oh,
That's
that's
something
been
that's
done. Yeah, it's been
yeah.
done a lot of
That's definitely
times.
been done. Yeah.
Yeah, and even burning it. I can't remember. There is a film where they do burn something in like again in a round barbecue, and I remember squirting lighter fluid on there, and they just burn it, and then it comes back again. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's been done quite a few times.
It has.
But
Yeah.
when you go to the police station, that police officer is the fucking weirdest looking police officer. He looks like a corpse. He's so pale, isn't he?
Oh yeah, yeah, he's a really odd looking man. And those
Yeah.
two dickheads in the background sniggering at what she's trying to say and stuff like that. It's just you'd never go in there again, would you?
No, he's greying under the eyes. He looks like a corpse, and
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fucking quite terrifying. And they obviously don't believe her because there's no evidence because she burnt the book. So again, things are just continually going against her. And the only person in her life is Mrs. Roach, who is always there on hand. And again, nothing's too much trouble that Amelia won't do for her. Like when she's really busy, but she goes and takes the bins out. Nothing's too much trouble.
Mm.
And that's why I thought that she'd be a goner. What did you think of the scene in the kitchen when there was those cockroaches and she pulls the fridge away and then there's like the hole in the wall and all those cockroaches come out? I couldn't understand. It must mean something. It's got to be a reference, whether that's the mouth of the monster. I couldn't understand the reference for that. Probably I'm just not purely clever enough, but I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, I suppose it's is like an infestation, wasn't it? So yeah, almost like the Babadook has infested the house, I guess, would probably be the analogy with that, and the fact that she's going completely bloody mad.
Yeah,
Because yeah, it was again not
strange.
very well explained, was it?
No, because a lot of these things do have like a hidden meaning to them, and I just couldn't
Yes.
understand what it was. But again, you got I think were they social services or education who
Yeah.
came around the house?
Social services, I think. Oh, there might have been education actually.
Because talk
Yeah.
about saying the wrong things. That he says, "I'm so tired because my mum gave me tranquilizers." Like,
Yeah.
fucking thanks, son.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Oh, I feel a bit woozy. The mum keeps drugging me. Oh, good.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
really need you to say that. Out of all the things, it's just I went round my cousin's house and broke her nose in 3 places. Again,
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks.
Can you just
Thanks,
go
son.
upstaiers and get my vibrator and show them that I was playing with myself with that as well? Because that'd just be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Oh,
Yeah,
bless.
you're just so helpful. Not you really are.
Yeah.
And it's really strange because when they go to bed and she's there and the Babadook, it's the kind of like the first time you kind of see him and he crawls around the ceiling really really fast and she takes her head out from underneath the covers and you kind of get the point of view that the Babadook then goes inside her, doesn't he?
Yes. Yeah, I think he sort of goes, which is pretty, it's just such a strange scene because it's like crawling around and then it's just this weird, creepy, really white faced man falling from the ceiling. It was more funny than scary.
Yeah, it's really strange. And then she's sat up the following night
Yeah.
or the same night watching television. And again, it's all kind of 1950s ritualistic things that she's watching, which is obviously a reflection of the kind of the mood she's in and the state she's in. Because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the Babadook appears on the TV, which is very, very creepy. But it's just she sleeps in again, and you're waiting, or I was waiting for something to happen because you believe that she's just possessed now, isn't she? Which is,
Yeah.
and the good thing is, I fucking love it. And to be fair, I've probably said this in pure tiredness when I was sleep deprived working shifts to my kids. When the kid wakes her up and goes, "I'm hungry," he goes, "If you're hungry, why don't you go and eat shit?"
Yeah. Harsh.
Yeah,
Absolutely ridiculously harsh, but yeah, you're probably all right.
we've all been there,
We've all said things we shouldn't say. Yeah.
and
Yeah, of
it's
course.
great.
Right at this moment, you want me to make you a fucking sandwich. It's like,
Exactly. Go and eat shit. But it's funny because this is the first sign of her, even before when she's been fucking sleep deprived, she's always managed to keep it together. But
yeah,
now she's struggling, and it's kind of like there's only just over half an hour left in the film, and she's really trying to fight this mood. And there's this thing with her jaw now, isn't there? She keeps like pushing, like she's got toothache, but there's just something there. It's never explained, is
mm,
it?
yeah. It's almost like I don't know. Yeah, again, that was weird. Maybe where he's in there as well. I don't know. Again, it was maybe a side effect of being possessed.
Because after she nearly crashed into another car when they're out, she goes back and she's just sat in a bath full of water with her clothes on, and Samuel gets in there, and I don't understand it. I think this is just part of a reflection of her breakdown, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, she's clearly just she's just gone now at this point, isn't she? She's completely broken. And yeah, poor old Samuel's probably looking at her, thinking, what the hell is going on? My mum's just sat in a bath, fully
Yeah.
clothed.
And she goes to bed with a violin. I don't quite get that, do you?
No, I don't know if that was a reference to her husband. Maybe he played violin, so it was precious to her, but because he goes to touch it and she snaps at him, doesn't she? Like really,
Yeah. We were
really
already aware
nastily.
from the sex toy that she likes a fiddle, but I didn't know a violin.
This is true. Yeah, she was going to have another strum.
Exactly. She's brought her mobile fiddle with her so
That's
she
it.
can do that. And again, she goes through another dream sequence. And this is more of a sign of kind of like a transition. And she starts to really fucking freak out. I mean, Samuel knows something's wrong. So he's got his kind of wooden proton pack on his back.
Yeah, bless
And
him.
this is when that she even, because he calls someone, I think he calls Mrs. Roach next door for help. And she loses her shit on
Yeah,
like using the telephone. And it's great. Her acting is fantastic. She goes suddenly mental. The look on her face, her eyes, really convincing. And she pulls this big old carving knife out and cuts the phone line as well, doesn't she?
yeah, because she's like, no one's going to be getting in. Don't worry. And she's going absolutely fucking ballistic. Yeah, and the massive carving knife and stuff like that. And you're like, oh fucking hell, you know.
Yeah,
Because the book, didn't it? When the book came back, she read it, didn't she? And there was more pages that were written in
that's
that,
right.
or
Yeah, it
and
was.
it's about killing the dog
Mm,
and killing the child, then slitting her own throat,
yeah, it's strangling the
wasn't it?
dog. Yeah, stabbing the kid and yeah, slitting her
Yeah.
throat. As she
So
said.
yeah, it's almost like, oh shit, she's grabbed this massive knife. Is this the start of that?
Yeah, and fair play to Samuel, like Noah Wiseman, because his acting throughout this part is really,
Oh,
really convincing and terrifying. And it's very clever the way you switch from the first half an hour, as we said earlier, that you think, fuck off, you little shit, I can't stand you, go away, to actually starting having sympathy with him
oh,
or
massively.
for
Yeah,
him.
yeah. And that's the thing. His performance throughout this whole film is just, when you actually break it down, is pretty phenomenal. The fact that he
Yeah.
can be this really frustrating character that you just like, oh my god, please stop, to
Mm.
this really, delicate, vulnerable child that's clearly just scared and wants to protect. And it's just the way he portrays it is brilliant, absolutely fantastic.
Definitely. And I really like the scene of when they do flick to the TV a lot, but when she puts him to bed and she convinces him to have that tablet and she's stroking him on the shoulder and he agrees to take the tablet and he looks terrified. He just portrayed so well. And it instantly flicks from her rubbing the shoulder to the wolf on television, the cartoon of him rubbing his chin, just as
Yeah,
to show you this is her character now. This is who's taken over and who she is. And it's just done so well. And I love the clips to these old cartoons of kind of monsters, and it flicks to the character who is the current monster because it started at the child. And when she turns around and sees him with his throat cut on the sofa, I thought she actually did it without knowing.
yeah,
That really got me. I thought that was
mm,
so cleverly done.
yeah. And there's all the because there's the news things as well, wasn't there? And it's all going
Yeah,
in the
mum attacked
basement.
us officers with a
Yeah,
knife and she was shot.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she's in the basement and she sort of wakes up and like starts looking at, yeah, it's all very much good mind games and all this type of stuff. And yeah, very
Yeah,
good.
because when they show you the police tape of like the actual scene of crime, and it's her looking out the window
Yes.
with a very sinister smile. And
Yeah.
that was absolutely brilliant. I
Yeah,
thought
it's
that
really
was
clever.
great.
It's really clever the way they've done these sort of scenes in it, because you don't quite know what's happened, do
Yeah.
you? You don't know what's sort of gone on in a sense. And it's just the fact that she's clearly just fucking losing her mind.
Yeah. And it's only kind of about 25 minutes left. The Babadook actually comes out, and there's that chase scene where goes down to the basement and she gets chased and she runs upstairs and he goes up the fireplace. And as she's on the floor, and she's basically helpless, the Babadook does something to her. I don't know. He's already entered her, but she's laying on the front. So whether he enters her from behind, I don't know whether
Hmm.
he's into that.
Well,
But
maybe.
whatever the Babadook does to her, her pupils dilate. Like, and I don't know whether I think she's fully been possessed now. Do you?
Yeah. She's fully under the control, isn't she? By this point.
Because she's gone full on kind of exorcist mode where she's possessed and she's chasing, and it's awful when she's chasing him, Samuel, through the house, and she's trying to convince him to come out, and she just loses her shit. And she does actually levitate at one point, doesn't she, and move across the floor, like tropically,
Yeah.
like you get in all those horror
Yeah.
films.
Yeah. No, definitely. He actually wets himself, doesn't he? Poor kid. He actually
Yeah,
he's that. I mean, that's fucking petrified, isn't it? The fact your mum's floating across the floor and chasing you around the house
yeah, and
and
she's literally
saying, "I
saying,
wish you'd."
I'm gonna smash
Yeah.
your brains out," basically.
Yeah, and I wish you died, not your dad, and all this type of stuff. And it's fucking horrific. So
Yeah,
you can see why people would be upset by this film. I have to be honest, there's parts of this that I did find uncomfortable
the
to
dog dying
watch.
when she kills Bugsy the dog.
Yeah, the dog, this type of bits where she's really going absolutely mental and saying these horrible things. They're not nice to watch, but I think it sort of, in order for it to be, appear real, it needed
Yeah,
to happen.
yeah.
If you see what I mean. How many times have we sat there and said, "Oh, a film hasn't gone far enough; it's a bit weak," and
Hmm.
stuff like that. This doesn't, at this point within the film, it doesn't go down that line. It's true to what it's trying to do, if you like, which is be completely fucking mental and scary.
Yeah, it is fucking full on mental. I don't quite get
Yeah.
it when she is trying to kill the kid. She's trying to kill Samuel. Mrs. Roach knocks on the door. When again, I was surprised. She's like three bites of the cherry that she's going to
Yeah.
die now, but she doesn't. And she says, "Like, I'm there for you, love. I know it's tough for you." And this kind of seemed to change Amelia into back to being like a bit of a nice person, or you kind of got that impression because she then finds Samuel and just says, basically, "Sorry, I love you, and like I'm sick and I need help, and you can help me." And I didn't know whether I couldn't quite get if that was Mrs. Roach's doing, whether she's kind of the angel, like the help that she needs, and
Yeah.
that's why she's doing it. And I was so shocked that when she's being kind of when she starts grabbing Samuel, that Samuel picks up the knife and stabs her, which for an 8-year-old to go and stab your own mum, I mean, that's a fucking extreme. And I did not expect that because to me, it didn't fit Samuel's character that he would murder his mum. I know that she's freaking out, but does he really know that his life's that much in danger? I honestly don't know.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because he's just been chased around the house. He's shot her with a dart. She said horrendous things, threatened him with a knife, done all this stuff, and then all of a sudden she's like nice and starts saying things like, "I want you to meet your dad." Well, his dad's dead, so the only
Hmm.
way he's going to meet him is by dying.
Yeah.
So I know he's only 8, but I think with everything, he's probably thought, "No, thanks. I know exactly. You're just being nice to me to fucking kill me." In a sense, the chasing me around hasn't worked. So this is a different approach. Whether a child of that age would be able to put that together is maybe something else, but that's how I took it.
Yeah. No, you're possibly right. I just wondered your kind of feelings towards that. And again, when she goes down to the basement, she falls over one of his traps. She bangs her head, and when she gets up, he smacks her on the head with a cricket bat. And he
This
ties
is
her up
funny.
like Home Alone style. I mean, surely an 8-year-old wouldn't be able to tie knots to the degree where he can hold
No,
an adult female down on the floor, and he does a fucking
no.
great job.
This is so Home Alone.
Yeah,
I'm not being funny. It's like the horror version of Home Alone, isn't it? The fact that she trips over a bloody rope, smashes her head, falls down some steps, and he knocks her out with a cricket bat. You
yeah,
know,
And
I
bless
was
him, he
expecting
says,
for
"I'm not
someone to
leaving
lose their
you."
shoes and tread on a nail.
For a tarantula on her chest.
Yeah, it's, it's just like, come on.
But
But yeah, then the knots. Yeah, it's like, okay, where'd you learn that? You don't go to school because you've been kicked out and no one likes
yeah,
you. Clearly, don't go to Boy Scouts, bless you.
yeah,
So
it's a weird scene, and it did
yeah,
lose me. But it's portrayed really well by her
mm.
being the devil or the Babadook inside her,
Oh god, yeah,
and that he's terrified, and he plays it well. And bless him, he says, I love you. I don't want to leave you. I want to help you. We said we'd do this together."
mm.
And I think I got the impression that it was his love for her, what he was saying to her, that made her cough up this black stuff, which is what's possessed her. But it is like the spirit of the Babadook, isn't it? I
Yeah,
took that anyway.
yeah, yeah. I think that's probably the only way you could take it, to be honest, because this is where the film starts to sort of fall down a little bit for me. I'd have to say maybe this is because it is weird. She's full on demonized. Yeah, she's been hit by a cricket bat and all this sort of stuff. But him just being nice to her,
Mm,
all of a sudden she starts having fits and she breaks
yeah,
free and throws up the black goo.
yeah, it's
And
really strange.
it's
It's yeah, it doesn't fit the context of the
yeah,
film, does it?
doesn't. It's quite weak for
Yeah,
me, like because we don't know enough about the Babadook because he's not
no,
really explored and explained. We don't really know what his weakness is, if you
no,
see what I mean.
but again, it's followed. But
And
when they go upstairs to the bedroom, that the bed starts shaking, and the the kind of an incarnation of the dad comes out, and
yeah,
she knows that it's not the dad. I mean, and I was so pleased that she realized it wasn't, because he keeps saying, "Go and get the kid," and it's like, he never obviously called Samuel the kid, and
no,
then it turns into the Babadook. And again, we've seen this in a lot of films, and it kind of has to work. That she basically says, "If you come near my child again, you're nothing." Just like they did in Nightmare on Elm
oh
Street when she
no,
says, "Freddy,
oh
you're
no,
nothing. You're a piece of shit." And the Babadook weirdly just falls on the floor and faints. And
yeah,
it was really strange. But the ending of this film was even stranger for me. That
yeah,
when they're in the garden picking worms, everything is a lot more colourful now. Because in the house, when she's going through her stage of depression, it's all grey in the house, and now it's a lot more colourful. That they're celebrating Samuel's birthday and they're picking worms, and she goes down to the basement and tells Samuel to wait, and she's feeding the Babadook
yeah,
as
mate.
a pet, and Babadook tries to kind of, almost looks like he tries to get control of her, and she's too strong and isn't frightened, and they keep the Babadook in the basement as a pet or a guest. And they
Yeah,
live with it.
and this is where the film just falls off the edge of a cliff, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Because it is get out of my house, blah blah blah, and just screaming at this thing, and he even tries like sort of grabbing the child, and he's floating in
mm.
midair between her and him, and they're having this struggle, and then all of a sudden, yeah, it's just like this whimpering thing, and then it goes into almost too much of a perfect family, doesn't it? Like you
Yeah,
say, everything's light and they're talking to each other really politely, and they're doing all these lovely things, having sandwiches, and they've got the social services back over, and everything's happy. And then yeah, she's feeding the Babadook worms, and it was just, what is the Babadook part of the house now? Can he not leave? What,
yeah.
you
And
know?
the film ends
What?
like that,
Yeah,
doesn't it? That everyone's really, really happy.
yeah. And I just thought, what? Hey,
Yeah.
pardon?
I,
What's
I
happened?
yeah, I was surprised. But I mean, before we score this, I just want to read you
Go
of
on.
a bit. It says, when asked about the idea of the Babadook, Jennifer Kent said, "I have a friend who was a single mother whose son was traumatized by a monster figure still everywhere in the house. I thought it'd be what this thing was real and what level. So I made a monster, which I said earlier, the 2005 film. I
Mm,
couldn't leave it alone. I kept coming back to it, and that led me to the Babadook." And she stated that Amelia suffers from unprocessed trauma of witnessing the horrible death of her husband, and
yeah.
that it's up to the audience to interpret it, whether the Babadook is supernatural or psychological in nature. And as in psychological, as in this is all in
Her head.
her head, like a stage of depression. That's what the Babadook is, driving her to self-harm, driving her to despair of possibly hurting Samuel.
Right.
And the effect she has on Samuel obviously has a negative effect on everything else around him. And that when at the end of the film, when the Babadook's alive and she's feeding it, it's a reflection of her living with her trauma, her depression, and that she can survive. It will never go away like depression doesn't and trauma doesn't, but you learn to live with it and you manage life with it in your house, in your life. And that's, I think, what she was trying to use the Babadook as a reflection of, or the audience could interpret it as that, which I thought was really clever.
That is massively intelligent and very clever, and it fits completely. And I think that's a fantastic way of doing it. A brilliant idea. I wish that would have been explained at the end.
Yeah, and
Like,
that's
if you,
why I look for that, because I needed to
yeah,
know what it was about.
yeah, because I just thought that they just sort of done what they do in a lot of films and gone, that'll do.
Yeah, I did.
And
And yeah, I wanted to
yeah,
tell you that before we went through the scoring of this film to see if it would kind of have a difference on how you'd score it. Because for me, it did. Having had depression, like, and
yeah,
it
yeah,
changed my life and living with it, that I could buy that idea. And I thought, wow, that's so fucking true. When you've got this cloud of depression over you, everything changes, and you don't recognize normal scenarios, and everything's blown out of proportion, and it's all very personal and selfish towards you. And if that's, I can really interpret it and relate to it that way. So I thought this film was fucking very clever, if I take it that way.
I have to agree with you with everything you just said because we know each other very well. We've both
Yeah.
been through a lot of shite and dealt with
Mm.
stuff, and I think this actually has frustrated me even more in the sense that they've got this amazing remit to tell this story and to put this message across, and uh, and they could have a caveat at the end, have all of this, and then have that explained to you
Mm.
in some way, like it's okay, you can get through it, but there's none of it, and it's just left. That's a massive opportunity missed for me,
Yeah.
in a sense of all those people that have watched this that could have been suffering with depression or all these horrible traumas, and they could
Yeah.
have watched this film and then gone, do you know what, actually that is completely what I'm going through.
Yeah.
But most people wouldn't watch that film and think that.
No, you'd watch it like I did, ignorant on first impression of
Of
a
course you would.
shitty horror film. It's fucking crap. I couldn't
well that
stand it, but yeah.
well that's what you would. Anyone that watches a film, they, unless there's an obvious story, like underlying reason or underlying story sort of thing, meaning
Mm.
you pick up on it. But this didn't have that,
No.
yeah, it hasn't changed what it's. In fact, it's maybe a little bit angry. But
What would you score
I
this
think,
then?
what would I score it? It's not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination. It's not a good film either. So I'd probably 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I'd go about 2.5, 2 out of 5.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd watch it again,
no,
but
certainly not.
I enjoyed it and I enjoyed the research of this. But
Mm.
yeah, so that is 2014, the Babadook. I mean, if someone hasn't seen it, I recommend they do watch it
Oh
just
yeah,
for the experience, because it is acted amazingly well. And if they can take something away from it and look at it at different level, different layers of the film, then you possibly will enjoy it. As I say, critically, this is scored very, very well.
yeah.
But I don't know. The ignorant part of me probably thinks only if you knew about this side of it, because I couldn't look at this deep enough to work out that message. I had to do some research on it, so it was
Well,
lost on me.
it's not obvious, mate. I think it's very well done, like acting wise. The acting is phenomenal from both the lead parts because the boy and the woman, the are both the leads really, and they
Yeah,
act it. They are brilliant actors. in this film. Absolutely cannot take anything away from their performances. But I think, not a lot happens. And then the fact that you've had to go away and research what is there a hidden meaning behind this film and find out there's a very important meaning behind this film means this film is a failure to me. And that's why I'd watch it because it's worth watching. But yeah, poor.
Yeah, there you go. You heard it there from Neil. That is our review, and I hope everyone enjoyed that. We will be back next week. We've done actually won't be back next week because we're all kind of working, but we have Jeepers Creepers coming out. That is all ready, and I'll put that out very soon. We've just had Barbarian with Steve and Kelly, our listener who's come on the show, who enjoyed it so much. She wants to be back for another one. Bless her. She's seriously must have fucking problems. But so we'll be back.
She knows us. She's got problems.
Well, yeah, exactly. Definitely. And she listens to all the shows, so she's got severe problems. But hopefully we'll all be back, all four of us. We can try and get everyone on the pod.
Yes.
Don't know what we're going to do. But again, we'll no doubt we'll be talking shit and being very immature. So thanks for listening to this. Thanks for your support. You're all wonderful people. And we'll be back very, very soon.